Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we are doing something really fascinating. We're diving deep into an archival investigation of a highly obscure tantric practice known as the Yakshini Sadhana. While a lot of medieval texts focus entirely on spiritual liberation, this is something completely different. It's a gritty, highly practical ritual designed for immediate worldly results. And we're relying strictly on primary Sanskrit manuscripts to reconstruct exactly what this ancient ritual entailed without any modern embellishments.
Okay, let's dive right into this. We have a meticulously structured, 6-part breakdown of the source texts for you today. 1. Ancient roots of Yakshinis. 2. Identity of Bhashini Yakshini. 3. The secret ritual protocol. 4. Missing information. 5. Visions, signs, and fruits. And finally, 6. Comparative tantric analysis.
Section 1. The ancient roots of Yakshinis.
So before we can even begin to unpack the specific ritual of Bhashini, we kind of have to ask, what exactly is a Yakshini, right? Well, to get the clearest cosmological framework, we actually look to classical Jain sources. According to these texts, divine beings, or devs, are categorized into 4 major kinds. Yakshas and Yakshinis fall squarely under the Vyantar classification. Think of them essentially as ancient guardian spirits.
Now, you've got to understand the hierarchy here. It's like all Yakshinis are devs, and they are all Vyantars. However, not all devs are Yakshinis. This establishes their highly specific niche. In these ancient traditions, certain entities were appointed as Adhisteya-ikas. Basically, they were caretakers for specific followers or sacred sites. They are entities that are extremely closely tied to our earthly realm, guarding wealth and offering serious protection.
Let's move to Section 2 and see how this builds the identity of Bhashini Yakshini.
All right, so narrowing our focus down from that broad category of guardian spirits, we meet Bhashini herself. Looking at the classical parameters, her Sanskrit name literally translates to the fearsome one. And true to her title, her appearance is explicitly described in the text as absolutely terrifying. So where do you find an entity like this? The texts specify the Taraha. That's a crossroads where exactly 3 roads intersect. It's a classic liminal space in occult traditions, literally a place between worlds.
Now, as researchers, we absolutely have to maintain strict academic distance here. It is crucial to state that details regarding her clothing, her jewelry, any weapons she might carry, or specific character behaviors are completely absent from the historical record. This information was not mentioned in the available source. We literally cannot and do not infer what just isn't there.
Moving on to Section 3. The secret ritual protocol.
So the Tantras are essentially practical, hands-on manuals. And let me tell you, the methodology required to perform her sadhana is intensely grueling. The practice lasts for exactly 7 days, and it peaks at midnight, right at that physical crossroads. But the crucial point is the required conduct. The practitioner has to be seated on a blanket and exhibit absolute, unwavering fearlessness. When you consider that her very name means the fearsome one, this immense psychological demand to completely conquer your own terror is really the central engine of the entire ritual.
And the sheer scale of the physical ritual? It is massive. Within those 7 nights, the practitioner is required to complete a staggering 100,000 mantra chants. That is a huge undertaking. But it doesn't stop there. After the chanting, there is a strict fire ritual. It's called a dashan shama, which requires 1/10 of the total chant count. That means 10,000 specific offerings of gugulu resin, completely soaked in ghee, must be offered directly into the flames.
Which brings us to Section 4, Missing Information in the Archives.
Now, what's really interesting about this is that we need to pause our narrative for a moment of radical transparency. Archival research is just as much about what's missing as what's actually found. Despite all those incredibly strict structural rules we just talked about, the original Sanskrit verses, the literal translations, the explicit text of the mantra itself, the specific meditation forms, and any obstacles the practitioner might face are completely absent. This information was not mentioned in the available source. The ritual framework survives, but the specific phonetic keys, they've just been lost to time in these manuscripts.
Let's dive into Section 5, Visions, Signs, and Fruits.
Okay, so for the people who supposedly survived this grueling 7-day endurance test with a fearless mind, what actually happened? Well, the texts record a highly dramatic physical sign of success. As the ritual reaches its climax at that 3-way intersection, the primary indicator that this entity is approaching is the environment turning completely chaotic. We're talking sudden, incredibly strong winds blowing fiercely right at the crossroads.
And so, what is the ultimate siddhi or boon granted by Bhishini Yakshini? If the practitioner actually manages to hold their ground, the texts claim she grants the immediate fulfillment of all their desires. Think about that for a second. Unlike mainstream spiritual practices that are aimed at, say, enlightenment or liberation, this is deeply transactional. It's a demanding physical and mental trial designed strictly to extract immediate worldly wishes.
Finally, Section 6, Comparative Tantric Analysis. To really verify these extreme claims, we went ahead and compared the primary manuscripts side by side. And honestly, the consistency across these surviving magical texts is striking. Both the Kakshaputta Tantra and the Udamareshwara Tantra perfectly align here. In the Udamareshwara, she's located in Patala 9, Shloka 13, and in the Kakshaputta, Patala 14, Shloka 3. And this brilliantly illustrates how both sources agree completely on her terrible form, the midnight setting, the 100,000 chants, and those ghee-soaked googlu offerings.
Taking a closer look at our sources, what you're seeing is the critical edition of the Kakshaputta Tantra. This is traditionally attributed to the famous philosopher Nagarjuna, who, fun fact, in medieval India was also highly revered as a master of magical sciences. But this text, it completely bypasses philosophy. It focuses exclusively on highly practical and often very dangerous magical procedures that were meant to generate immense power and wealth.
And this specific excerpt visually grounds us right in the source material. It shows exactly where this umbrella of Yakshini practices is archived in the historical record. Chapter 14 is dedicated entirely to Yakshini Sadhana. It preserves this deeply fascinating, albeit kind of daunting, piece of medieval history, outlining the intense demands of interacting with these volatile guardian spirits.
Now, before we wrap up this explainer, it is absolutely critical to state this verbatim. Vedmata AI does not endorse the practice of any Yakshini Sadhana without a qualified guide, guru initiation, and proper classical understanding. But learning about this does leave us with a really provocative question to ponder. In our fast-paced modern world, with our constant pursuit of instant gratification, are we really so different from those ancient practitioners who sought out the crossroads at midnight?
On behalf of the Vedmata AI family, if you found our presentation informative, please share our video as widely as possible so that the authentic knowledge of Indian Vedic texts can reach the masses. Let us all participate in this yajna of knowledge. Har Har Mahadev.